America, welcome back inside the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham, your host, joined by Rod Martin and Dean Owen. And we're brought to you by the Freedom Chamber, online at freedomchamber.net. Healthcare, it's a big burden to business owners around America. We have a healthcare solution inside the Freedom Chamber. If you're not a member, join today. You know a member? Hey, ask them about it. freedomchamber.net. A lot to unpack in our show today, gentlemen. We're going to talk about tariffs. We're going to talk about Mexico. But let's first talk about an hour and 47 minutes of just beautiful theater, words. I can't even pack it into a phrase there, but the State of the Union address last night. Rod Martin, I've been looking forward to getting your thoughts since I went to bed last night. Give it to me.
Well, it was great. He really hit all the right notes, and he was engaging and he was funny, and he took it to the Democrats in a way that is great for campaign ads for the rest of the year. He did all the right stuff, but he also had a great hand. I was on NTD earlier today, sparring with a Democrat political consultant about who won, and I'm like, yeah, Abigail Spanberger, great delivery, great setting in her response to the State of the Union, but she's got a terrible hand. How can Democrats, with a straight face, look in the eye and talk about affordability when 100% of the affordability crisis happened under them? 100% of it, even spiking to 9.1% inflation at one point under Biden. All of these things that they're complaining about now, they didn't say a word about for 4 years. So Trump has this incredible hand that he has dealt himself. Food prices are coming down. Gasoline, there's one state where the price is $1.89 a gallon. Unbelievable. We were up above $6 very recently. Yeah, all these things are coming together. Immigration, they want to focus on Minnesota. Okay, well, go ahead and focus on Minnesota. We know what you did there. The Signal group chats that were uncovered show that the Democrats were seeking to provoke law enforcement agents to try to create a crisis. But meanwhile, outside of there, where the operation actually went really well, you've got 9 other cities where ICE was doing the same thing with no incident at all, because no one was trying to provoke an insurrection. So Trump has all these successes under his belt. He's kicked 2.5 million illegals out of the country. He has brokered peace in 8 separate wars. Oh my goodness. And the Democrats just don't even acknowledge it, because apparently wars in places they can't find on the map don't matter. But the war in the Congo with Rwanda has been going on for 40 years. The war between Armenia and Azerbaijan has been going on for 40 years. Trump brought peace. Trump brought peace with Cambodia and Thailand. Trump brought peace with India and Pakistan, which presumably they can find, and about to get there with Ukraine. So from beginning to end, whether they were sitting rather than stand for the call to stand, if you at least agree that we have a duty as the American government to defend American citizens from foreign criminals. Yeah, and the Democrats all sit. Nobody stood except Fetterman. From that to the murder of Irina Zarutska, to these Medal of Honor winners, he just had a heck of a night. It was beautiful stuff. It's going to be great ads. And I think it's the beginning of a year that is going to remind some of us who are a little bit older of 1984.
Yeah, he did. I was watching some of the talking heads afterwards, and they really were trying to pour on that Reagan gloss to the speech in that night. And I think there were hints of it. There were big touches of it. And then you pepper in the United States men's hockey team and their gold medal. Mm-hmm. And I hear now the women are going to be coming to the White House next week to visit with President Trump, so in the Oval Office. So a beautiful night, a great win for those that believe in what America stands for and its principles and its values. And stand is the key word in that phrase right there, unlike what the Democrats did last night, which is just, that should be the campaign as you move forward into the midterms in 2026. Do you stand for American values, or are you going to stand for illegals?
Yeah.
That's really, or sit for illegals, I guess I should say. Dean Owen, your perspective on what you witnessed last night.
Well, of course, I couldn't agree more with what you guys have said, but I'd like to point out something. And he does this over and over and over again, and nobody can catch him. He lures and baits Democrats into being absolute belligerent fools consistently. I mean, these issues, these are not 80-20 issues. These are 90-10 issues. And how did he, he was masterful enough to know that if he said, stand up, if you want to defend Americans first and before illegals, they were not going to stand. And that was going to be great cannon fodder for every TV commercial and radio political ad. He may have just won that midterm single-handedly.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a campaign director of anybody that has a true threat to their seat come the midterms, that's all I'm going to talk about. What we stand for in America. Look what my competition's doing. Look what the Democrats are doing. They're on the sides of illegals and taking your tax money and throwing it out the window. The way that the representative, I don't even like to say her name, from Minnesota acted last night was just, we have it on our side too. We can't pull the wool over everybody's eyes there. We have it on our side too with some of the things that have happened during State of the Union addresses. But this is just over the top, the way they acted last night, and the buttons.
What she's standing for is fraud.
Yes, correct.
I told you I was on this NTD show a little while ago, and the Democrat I'm sparring with wouldn't defend Tim Walz. Would not. Just basically threw him under the bus. They all know the level of corruption in Minneapolis. And you've got Rashida Tlaib and AOC and all these folks trying desperately to make Trump calling that out racist. I'm sorry. It's not racist to get rid of trespassers. We have illegal aliens from every country in the world. So, illegal alien is not a race, but corruption is not racial. The corruption in Minnesota benefits the Democratic Party in Minnesota. It also benefits them nationwide when they win those electoral votes, probably corruptly. And it also benefits our foreign enemies and their foreign friends, like Al-Shabaab in Somalia, the Al-Qaeda affiliate for Somalia that Minnesota taxpayers are the number one funder of through this fraud. And if you think Minnesota is bad, wait till you see what we're going to find in California, in New York, in Illinois, in Massachusetts. It is just going to rock the world. And I said on that show, and I say again, the indictments are coming. It's going to be an avalanche, and it's going to be a lot of Democrats in jail.
Well, hopefully sooner than later, because we need to just wash them clean. And get back to what we're good at in America, and that's taking care of each other and taking care of our own, but also having the empathy for other people around the world that come here legally. And that's the key word, legally. We don't have a problem with immigrants. We have a problem with illegal immigrants. And that's what also needs to be said during the midterms. We welcome others from other parts of the world. Just do it the right way. That's
all we ask.
Chuck, and you and Rod know, but I actually bring people here from Mexico on a TN visa. It's 100% legal. We go through the immigration and we do it right. And those folks are amazing people. They're some of the best accountants in the whole country. And the two that I've got, the areas where they lived have been taken over by cartels. So, it's just an amazing positive. The way they work, their work ethic, their knowledge, their skills, it's a wonderful thing. So we want legal immigrants, and I'm bringing over, and I'm probably going to bring over a whole lot more of them because I can't find accounting talent here. But it's not a cheap program. It's not, it's not by hiring cheap labor because they get to pay market rates. But we're living it. We live the example of we want to do this legally.
Let's dovetail into something you just said, cartels. Rod, your thoughts on the knife fight that has been brought to the top of the pile in Mexico? Where are we going with it? How do we end it?
Well, and of course, you're referencing the article by Sam Faddis,
Yes.
who's a retired CIA clandestine officer and a good friend of mine. And he wrote a wonderful article on his own and magazine that we republished this morning at the Rod Martin Report. Everybody go to rodmartin.org, duh. But we talked about it because this is really a new phase. We've had this fake drug war my whole life. And I don't want to blame Ronald Reagan for that too much because he was a little busy winning the Cold War, which was very, very real. And, we were trying to cut off supply, or trying to imprison drug dealers, trying to do all the basic stuff. That's never going to get you there. The thing we have to understand about these cartels is they're just the current incarnation of the mafia. And in the middle of the 20th century, the United States had to deal with the mafia in a systematic and frankly pretty draconian way, whether that was going after Capone in the 30s or, going after all the liquor runners in the 20s, or whether that was dealing with Cosa Nostra in the 50s. And you had to create statutes like RICO to do that. And you had to do creative things to get there. Well, these guys are no different. And if you don't deal with them, they overrun everything. What boggles my mind in a nation where shows like Breaking Bad and Landman are wildly popular is that people don't understand that these cartels haven't just bought officials at every level in Mexico. They've bought officials at every level here. Why do you think we had an open border? Why do you think the Democrats poo-hooed a movie that was exposing human trafficking when they had lauded the guy that the star is playing just a decade earlier? They don't want that looked at. We've got corrupt judges, we've got corrupt officials, we've got corrupt police, and that is on a sea of money. So what the Trump administration just did takes this up a notch. It makes it very kinetic. It is very much of a piece with the Navy blowing up these drug boats coming out of Venezuela. We are making the drug war kinetic. And now that we're in it, we actually got to win it because these guys play to keep.
Oh yeah, there's no going back now. You can't go halfway. You're not half pregnant with this one. You gotta go full term. You have to really do what's needed to make the world a safer place, our border a safer place, our children safer, especially around the border. And the people that live around the border have got to be cheering what's happening, even though they're right in the middle of the war. But they know the end result can be a really good thing for everybody on the border of the United States and all of us within the United States. Dean, your thoughts?
Well, of course, as always, we tend to agree with each other an awful lot. But just what's happening right now? What's going on? There are probably several hundred Reaper drones flying all over Mexico, recording everything that's going on. There's satellite imagery that can spot a fly on a horse's butt from outer space. They're cataloging, they're filming, and you've got it probably somewhere in Langley or somewhere. You've got a bunch of intel specialists who are putting together and mapping routes to figure out how are they going to go in and kill these guys. And it takes time. We saw it's taken a long time with Venezuela. It's taken a long time with Iran, and there's some news there. But it takes time to do this in a way that we don't get our boys killed. So, and none of us have patience when it comes to this stuff. We all want those guys gone, and gone yesterday, but it's a little more complicated than that. You can't just go in haphazardly because they'll set traps for you and everything else. So even our special forces and our, SEALs and those kind of guys, they could be hoodwinked into a trap if they don't have the right intel. So that's what they're doing right now. That's going on. That's been too big. I mean, at one point there was reports they were hunting Americans. And fortunately I was able to divert my pastor from going down there on mission trip on Monday because, John's a great guy, but he's not a military guy. So he's not been in combat zones. So
Understood. Yeah. So we've got Mexico going on. Last week we were right in the middle of recording when the Supreme Court, actually right after we got done recording, the Supreme Court came down with their ruling. And has anything changed, Rod? Will anything change? It's just another workaround, right?
Yeah, it's a little staggering how much did not change, and that's the real story. It's the dog that didn't bark. And the pundits are all out there talking about all Trump's tariffs were knocked down, or most of Trump's tariffs were knocked down. No, no. Nothing has really changed. The IEPA tariffs were held to be invalid because IEPA, this one act, doesn't contain the word tariffs, which is really weird when you consider that it plainly allows the president to regulate trade, plainly allows him to impose licensing, fees, embargoes, anything he wants to do. But Congress left out the one word tariffs. And so in what I think was just a completely pedantic position by the Chief Justice, we get this ruling that says, that just puts form over substance. It just says, never mind that you've got a bunch of synonyms in this law. We're just going to pretend that's not true. And we're going to say you exceeded your authority. But that same ruling says plainly that the president has the power to use all these other statutes to do the exact same thing. So, okay, those have some other hoops to jump through, and there are some limitations on them, but the net is identical. So immediately we have a global tariff under Section 122. We're initiating all these Section 301 investigations. That's going to go the president's way. It's the president's team doing the investigations. There's no question they've got all the groundwork done over the last year. And then there's the one that nobody mentioned, which is Section 338 of the Tariff Act of 1930, which gives the president draconian powers to impose up to 50% tariffs on any country purely for national security reasons, purely within his own judgment. So there's absolutely no slowing down. And on top of that, the president highlighted the real point last night. We've already made deals with nearly all of these countries. A deal's a deal. Once it's in a deal, IEPA tariffs don't apply anymore. Now what we're talking about is the terms of the deal we came to. And he said very plainly, if anybody wants to renegotiate that, they're going to really hate what we do to them. So no, nothing has really changed except we got kind of a weird textualist ruling out of a strange coalition of Democrat and kind of middle of the road conservative justices who didn't want to go this direction. If anybody wants to read the dissent, that's Alito and Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas. If you want to read the dissent, you will be much enlightened.
Yeah, the dissent really opened other pathways, other roads and other paths for Trump to go down, which you just labeled all of them, fees. And I mean, all of that stuff can just be manipulated in a different way. But you're right, the deals are done. They really don't fall under the restrictions on what the Supreme Court came down with. And everybody's talking about, well, we have to return the money. Are we going to get rebates now? J.B. Pritzker in Illinois wants to sue the administration so everybody gets a $2,000 check. Just fodder for the headlines. That's really all this is. And I don't really see anything changing with any of it, as you just said.
We might have to do some refunds. I don't know, because the Supreme Court didn't address it. And you would think if he was using a power inappropriately that cost people hundreds of billions of dollars, that's something that would matter to them. But no, they left it for the future. And I think that that's of a piece with the timing. We've all been talking about, why haven't they come out with this ruling? Trump has been talking about, why can't they get to a ruling here? This seems pretty straightforward. I would contend that the answer is in the Indonesian trade deal we inked the morning before the Supreme Court ruled. I think the Supreme Court knew that Trump was going to have the powers that he had. They chose not to overrule his power to impose tariffs. They just restricted it to these other acts. That's a big thing in and of itself, because the real question, especially from the libertarian camp, was, does the president have any constitutional authority to make these decisions at all? And the Supreme Court 9-0 just said that he does. So sorry, guys, you're not getting out of this box. But they let him negotiate all these deals first. All the major deals are done before their ruling, and I think that was deliberate.
To appease the other side of the aisle, correct?
In part, I mean, there are a bunch of different rulings here. As you know, there's the majority opinion, and some of the justices concur with that, and, parts of it, and others with other parts. And then you've got the dissent over here. And there's a lot of unanimity on a handful of points and a lot of very different opinions on others, and definitely a lot of different interests. Some of these people are clearly trying to appease certain people in the Republican and in the Democratic parties. Some of these people, I think, were trying to buy time for the president because they knew that the net was going to be no change, and throwing a wrench into this before those negotiations were done was an inappropriate infringement by the judicial branch on the president's power to conduct foreign policy.
Very well said. That last sentence sums it all up there, Rod. Very well said. Dean, your thoughts from the outside looking in?
I think there's some reasons, and Rod had mentioned it, and it's some communication for different reasons. But I think this is a setup so that the Democrats can't say that that the Supreme Court is Trump's lap puppy.
Yes, yes.
And
Bingo.
The president does this over and over and over again. He sets these traps, and the Democrats just fall face plant right in them every time. I think that's because if the left ever got in charge, I don't think they're going to. They would pack the court. They would do stupid stuff, and they would justify it by saying this court is Trump's lapdog. And we've got the gerrymandering, racial-based gerrymandering ruling coming up. I don't think there's any way they can rule that that's constitutional. It's blatantly racist, and so that's going to be a big one, because if that goes the way anyone who knows anything is rational thinks it's going to go, that's going to put about probably 20 to 30 seats. Do that with the other stuff going on with the GOP, the red states redistricting, we could see a 40 seat majority this term, this year. So starting January 6th next year, or January 20th, whatever. But the election, everybody talks about the president loses seats in the House and Senate in the midterm. This is not a normal president.
No, it's not.
You cannot compare him to everyone else. That's not going to work. He's held up Benton on fire, and he's moving about Mach 6.8 speed on everything he does. He's got 47 initiatives all going on at the same time, and they're all coming to fruition and coming out the way we want them to.
Well, you guys have said it.
Circling back to what Dean just said, the case coming up that we're all looking for is the racial gerrymandering case. And it's just absurd on its face. It's clearly violative of the Voting Rights Act, even though they're using the Voting Rights Act to justify it. It's clearly unconstitutional. It's a travesty. And the only fig leaf you can give it is the necessity of ensuring that oppressed Black Americans get representation in Congress. Well, newsflash, turns out twice as many Blacks have been elected to U.S. House seats from non-racially gerrymandered districts as from racially gerrymandered districts. So, sorry, in the age when we elect Barack Obama to 2 terms, Americans are happy to vote for Black people who agree with them. This is just a non-problem. So the effect of this is to give the Democrats, just spot them 20 or 21 seats for no legitimate and certainly no constitutional reason at all. And I think that's how the court's about to rule, probably 6-3, possibly 7-2, but probably 6-3. And yeah, the trade ruling kind of gives them a fig leaf for what's about to come down.
But Rod, how will they be able to read the ballot? Because according to Gavin Newsom, Black people can't read, right?
Yes, exactly. Black people can't read, and they don't have photo IDs, because apparently no Black people ever buy cough syrup or go to the airport or drive a car. I mean, it's just insane. The kind of stupidity Democrats expect Americans to believe is so absurd, so off the chart, that is unquestionably a key part of the explanation for why 89% of Americans support voter ID. 89%. And those numbers are stable across Democrats, Republicans, men, women, you name it, age groups, whatever, however you want to break it down. 89% of Americans want voter ID, and the Democrats are standing in the way. And there's no way you're doing that unless you have an ulterior motive. And we know what it is. They're cheating like crazy. We've got evidence of it coming out of Venezuela. That's why Tulsi Gabbard was in Fulton County. And we've got reams of evidence now coming out of these states that the Justice Department is finally taking seriously.
Absolutely. Dean, your final thoughts, and then please tell people where they can find you at, Dean.
Yeah, just it's some of the stuff that's going on is crazy. You know, we have totally destroyed the idea that the 2020 was the most safe and secure election in American history. It's not even the first time that's happened. Richard Nixon's first presidential run was likely stolen from him. Andrew Jackson's presidency was likely stolen from him.
Yes.
So the history books don't tell you that, because then they don't want people to know that this has happened before. We now know the CIA was deeply involved in getting Nixon out of office and getting him to resign. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the veil, and the veil's getting torn down. So, just one more quick question or comment. You know, last time we were on, we talked about how many companies are leaving these high tax blue districts. And I just did a real quick ChatGPT check on who has, because as of this morning, McDonald's headquarters is leaving Chicago.
That's correct.
Caterpillar's leaving Illinois. Boeing's military division is leaving Virginia. J.P. Morgan and BlackRock are leaving New York City. Public Storage left California. Planetaire Technologies left California, as did SpaceX, Tesla, Charles Schwab, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Oracle, and unfortunately, KFC's my own Kentucky Fried Chicken is going to be a Texas Fried Chicken. But so that took me about 3 seconds to figure that out. So, you know, we talked about it last week, and here we're starting to see that accelerating. So, you know, Rod and I, Chuck, we don't practice this. We don't, you know, there's nothing here scripted. This is just us putting out information you can count on, that's real. So find me at owencpa.com, get online, connect with my team. Let's talk about how to disinfect the government and not your kids. That's owencpa.com.
And the Martin Report, Rod Martin, it's delivered fresh to my inbox at least once, maybe twice a day. Where can that be found at?
Well, just very quickly, I want to endorse the Freedom Chamber, who's hosting us today. If your business isn't involved in the Freedom Chamber, you're just missing out. A very, very foolish move. Don't do that. Join the Freedom Chamber. And by the way, hire Dean Owen, because he's amazing. As far as us, you can find me at rodmartin.org. That's rodmartin.org. We do daily geopolitical analysis. Fox Business calls absolutely phenomenal. And we've got tens of thousands of subscribers, hundreds of thousands of social media followers to prove it. So come to rodmartin.org and check us out.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And Rod, thank you for the thumbs up and the endorsement on the Freedom Chamber. And it's there, freedomchamber.net, healthcare solution inside of there. Personally and professionally, my business, Freedom Square, Freedom Chamber, we saved upwards of 52% on our premiums last year. This year, we only had a slight increase of 3%. Find me another business in America that only had a 3% increase in their health insurance. We've built it. It's here, freedomchamber.net. Rod and Dean, I appreciate you guys, and we will be back next week. This has been The Business Pulse.
Healthcare costs are crushing America's small businesses. Premiums have risen over 240% in the last decade, forcing companies to choose between growth and healthcare coverage. The Freedom Chamber, found online at freedomchamber.net, has a better solution: the Guardianship Healthcare Plan. Designed by a doctor who understands that strong care starts with a strong doctor-patient relationship. This plan puts people first while protecting your bottom line. With up to 45% annual premium savings, the Guardianship Plan delivers real care, real savings, and real freedom. Your business, your employees, your health plan needs the Guardianship. The Freedom Chamber Guardianship Plan. Get your quote today. Learn how your business can take control of healthcare. Visit freedomchamber.net, the pro-American business network.